and girls, my name's Dan, welcome back to The Forge. In today's episode of Trust Me, I'm a Blacksmith, we're going to be talking about dog's head hammers, tips, tricks and all the mistakes you might make if you're going to try and make your dog's head hammers at home, how to get this really nice finish on them, and also just general things about hammer making. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about dog's heads, tips, tricks, things to do, things not to do, how to get those nice finishes, and then as I go through next week I'm going to be doing a few more hammers. I've got Scandis or Swedish patterns. I'm going to do some rounders, circles, squares, or whatever you want to call them, and I've got a few other bits and bobs, some big boys and stuff to make. So I will be going into detail about how to make all of those hammers, and then I will go into detail in the heat treating video, and also I talk about handling video. I think I've done this before, I did it with an older camera, but I just sort of sod it. I'm making them, I might as well share some stuff. Okay, dog's heads, odd little hammers. I'm going to be brief with things and just going to point out places where you might make mistakes, where I've learned how to do things a slightly different way. The biggest issue that we have with dog heads is that I'm going to punch the eye quite close to the back of the billet. I'm using square stock to do these. I like square stock because it lets me lay it up and I can tend to punch the holes a bit easier in the square stock. But the biggest problem, or one of the things I've seen a lot of people do, is they put this initial punched hole a bit too far back. You stand the risk of splitting the stock, especially if you pinch the eye and you then get a shut. And the other thing that people do is they tend to waste the material off. Anyway, we're going to go over that and we'll talk about that as we're going through. Get these punched and use a power hammer to do it. I'm going to be using this short, stumpy little hammer eye punch. It's 4140, forklift truck time recycled. I've got a flat end on here, and I've put it on a bar, metal bar with a bit of insulated engine coolant tube stuff. I've got what it's called, and then I've also got a set of hammer eye punches here. It's important that you at least try and get your hammer eye drift, sorry, a set of hammer eye drifts, your hammer eye drifts, so that once you've punched all the way through, you can just slide this in, not messing around. Okay, I asked you guys and girls to ask some questions of me about hammer making in the video where I reforged that hammer, and one of the questions was posed, what's the difference between the different types of ways of punching and which ones do I use? I use 3 of the 4 that I can think of. I tend to use a very short stubby slitter, you'll have seen me using that just now, with a flat bottom on it. I tend to use that if I've got a striker or if I'm working under the power hammer. I have quite good results with that. This is nothing special, this is no special steel, this is 4140, it's made of forklift truck tine. I just find that as you get more confident with it, you know how to drive it in and you have less problems. However, these punches don't last long, it only takes one mistake. You'll have to grind a bit back and then, yeah, they don't last long at all. I also am prone to using these bladed type ones with the curved ends. They work really well, they're very efficient. However, they can cause problems on crossover and so on, so where you don't punch the eyes quite in the same place and the two paths that you punch cross over, and then you get a bit of tear through, and that can be a little bit awkward later on in the punching process. And I tend to find myself going through from one side 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way, and then flipping the stock over, marking up and kind of guessing where this one goes, and then going from there, because I seem to have better results, get less crossover and less tear out. And finally, the round Slugger. This is basically a round punch. I think these are H13, these. I think they're the last bit of H13 tooling I've got. However, I've got two of them. This one's got a centre punch piece on it to find the hole, and then you just drive this one through. Now these hammer out a lot of stock. They're really, really hefty. They knock out a big slug, and they can be quite hard to drive through. And I tend to only ever use them if I'm making eyes where the hammers are going to be flat, where I don't want to pull the cheeks out, because you do lose a lot of material. They're fast. They're really fast. They get a lot of a job done real quick, and they're also a lot safer to bolster than some of these sharper tools that you might end up putting under the hammer. And lastly, I get asked a lot about the type of lubrication that I use. In this pot here, it's the last dregs of beeswax with terps in it, or turpentine, mineral spirits. So there was a little bit of that in the bottom, and then basically I added linseed oil and mixed those together until they all sort of come together. And then I get graphite paste. Now the easiest way to get hold of graphite paste is call up a local locksmith. Locksmiths tend to have these little tubes of graphite that you can sprinkle into the lock as lubrication. And the whole pot of that went in there. It's basically leftover stuff and the pot of lubrication, which I think cost me like £4, £4, so $5 or $6, something like that. Depends where you are in the world, I guess. However, this dries reasonably hard, so when you stick the punch in for the first couple of times, you have to wiggle it around a bit to get a bit of snot on there, but this stuff's brilliant. Definitely recommend making this up. Alternatively, just the beeswax on its own does work quite well. Okay, grinding. I confess, I do sometimes, depends on the hammer, they tend to get a little bit of grinding done on them. And that's everything from just sort of tidying up these. If I made a bolster, I could probably get these cheeks rounder without having to do that, save a bit of time potentially. Just dressing up the corners, getting rid of any big bits of scale. Initially dressing the faces, but this process can be a little bit time consuming sometimes, but one thing it really lets you do is just have a look at what you've done before you go back and do any of that finishing forging. So for example, this face is a little bit wonky, so what I'm going to end up doing is trying to get that to straighten that back up again. If I can't, I'll end up grinding it out to get it look the way I want it to look. Straighten any eyes or anything like that, so you can notice some problems as you're going along just doing a bit of a grind like that. And I just want to cover what kind of grinding discs I'm using and some of the equipment that I'm using to do the grinding and why I'm using it. Okay, so initially I've just used a grinding stone. I quite like the Dronco product, it's quite good, German made, you can't really go wrong with German stuff. And I use this initially for two reasons. It hacks out a lot of material and it'll hack through the scale quite nicely. The scale on the steel is quite hard, and the flap discs that I go on to use tend to get eaten up a bit by the scale, and sometimes they don't even touch it. I also buy these, again, a Dronco product here. I'm not trying to sell these, but they are a good product. But I also then move on to a 40 grit. This is a bit worn. This has done a couple of days work now. I try not to do too much grinding, but once you've got the material hacked out with the stone, this 40 grit will do a really nice job and leave a really nice finish compared to the actual stone, which is quite a rough finish. And then at this stage, I'll take it to an 80, this 80 grit. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to take these through to basically finished forged, and then I will show you what I do once they're finished and what level of grinding I take them up to before I do the heat treat. So I'm going to just get these up to where I'd normally have them before I start doing any reforge on them, and then I'll meet you back in a minute. Just quickly before I move forward, I meant to mention some of the other things that you really need to get hold of. I'm using an angle grinder with those discs in, and they create particulate matter regardless of what they're grinding. So if you're grinding aluminium, yeah, you're going to get aluminium dust, but you're also going to get particulates breaking down from the discs themselves. So you need to get yourself a good respirator. Something like this will set you back about £40 in total with the actual bits on, and then replacing these are expensive. And I in the past have been naughty and I haven't worn a respirator, but for this now I'm getting older and I'm starting to notice it a bit. I am wearing a respirator. The thing you want to get yourself is a good set of ear defenders. Spend some money on these. You've only got one set of ears as well, so look after them too. And you want to get yourself some safety glasses of some description. I'm thinking about getting a face shield, but once you've got the face shield, and anyway, I would like to get one of those full enclosed respirators for this. You know, if you can get some extraction or a good ventilation wherever you are as well, that's really helpful also. Right, I'm going to leave that there for the minute. I'm going to get on with this grind. I'll see you in a second. Okay, let's talk about grinding. Be sensitive. There is no point ruining a piece of perfectly nice forged metalwork by putting a grinder to it. It'll get you nowhere. I think a lot of people think it's easier. It's not, just makes your work look horrible. And the worst grinding, and I'm going to say this and this is going to upset a lot of people, the worst grinding is when you've forged it and then you grind it and then you leave it ground. Because it looks awful, it looks terrible, and it degrades your work, and it makes you look like you have no idea what you're doing, okay? This is going in the fire, and you'll see it after it's had the scale taken off, scale put back on. It's gonna look so nice, okay? It's one extra step. Also, be sensitive. Work out where transitions are happening, and if you're gonna have a transition, don't have this weird hack line in there, it's just gonna look awful. So you want to, I'm going to leave some of these features in, I like them, they look hand forged, which is what you want. So you don't want to eradicate the hand forged qualities, but you want to grind it so that it looks tidy if you've got any problems. The other thing is with grinding, and this is the real reason for grinding, is to get that face to do the job that you want it to do. And with a hammer, which is designed to make blades, which is going to come into contact with the anvil if you're doing bevels, what you want to do is clear out one side so it's got a nice radius on it. Got a relatively flat spot in the middle, whereas I've got some nice radiuses on that face, so that if it does, when it comes into contact, it's going to give you the opportunity to get that bevel in. Okay, before and after, and the differences, just purely because I got it hot, I forged some of the faces that I ground, and then I wire brushed it with a wire wheel, and it's remarkable how much nicer this one looks than this one. I'm sure at some point in the future, when I have better woodworking facilities, I'll make all my own handles, but I don't make my handles or buy them. I bought store-bought ones. But there's one important thing to understand when it comes to putting in your store-bought handles is make those drifts fit nicely. This handle hasn't had anything done to it except for I drove it in already. I think that's the front side. Okay, let's Okay, and that's what you want to be able to, get that in. This does go in, I've put it in already. And get these hammer handles sitting so that you don't have to mess around with them, because if you are messing around with them, you're wasting your own time, really. Okay, these hammers have turned out lovely. I'm really stoked with them, and they will be going to the customers very soon. They just need heat treating and handling now. Just quickly to go over what makes a good dog's head. Well, initially, get that transfer as close to the eye as possible. If you're going to do what I've done, you're going to put that little taper in there, and do it as soon as possible. Get that in as early as possible and as close to the eye as possible. So if you do pinch the eye, you have a chance to sort it out with a drift. Secondly, don't put the eye too close to one end, because otherwise you'll end up having an area which is too tight. It looks silly. You'll probably end up fish lipping the back here or something stupid like that. And even worst case scenario, you could split it. And third, try not to waste the hammer too much. You want this material here not to look like it tapers down. I think that looks really nasty. You do get some older versions of these hammers where they taper down, and I see a lot of modern replicas of these these dog's head hammers that definitely have that taper in. Doesn't take much work. This is a very simple hammer to make. It's very easy to make. You don't have to do what I've done. You just have to pull those cheeks out and make them look nice and tight. Okay, that's the end of this video. If you don't want to listen to me talk about channel stuff, thank you for joining me. I'll be doing the heat treat or a heat treat video very, very soon. I've got lots of different types of hammers to make. I'm doing these sort of how to make these hammer videos, and then I'm going to expand on the heat treatment and the handling process. Not in a great detail, just these fun little videos, and just chuck them out for you guys and girls at home to enjoy. So if you are going to leave now, thank you for joining me. Subscribe, like, comment, share, do all that good stuff. Check out the description, go over to the Etsy, go and buy something, buy a t-shirt or buy a hammer or whatever. And also go and check out the Instagram, post loads of stuff up there when I can. And yeah, loads of fun on there. Cool. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys and girls later. If you are going to stick around, let's talk a little bit about what name I'm going to choose for these videos and all that great stuff. Okay, so why a dog's head? What's all this about? I'm under the impression that having a hammerhead that is weightier than the back of the hammer and faces forward, so it extends out the hammer, means that you have more control over the falling hammer. So it means that you can get that accuracy up, apparently. How true that is, I don't know. That's what I've been told. These aren't the only hammers to sort of base themselves around that theory. I've got a couple more. I'm just going to go grab some to show you. Okay, so I've got a collection of hammers here. They're all in varying ages, from brand new, born today, to something that I've had sitting around on my shelf for people that don't know how to swing a hammer for, I don't know, I've had this for about 2 years now. And then I've got this lovely thing here that I've had since I've been in this workshop for a long time, but it was made in 1952. So, and it's also got a War Department symbol on it. So, again, the eye is very close to the back of the hammer here, and that gives you a lot of forward momentum. It's a very British thing to do. This is a British pattern hammer. This is a British pattern hammer. This, on the other hand, is made in Britain. I don't know if it's a British pattern hammer, but again, it's about pushing that weight forward, and apparently gives you more control. The weight's quite far forward on the old Stanley, and also this British Army Engineers hammer is also quite far forward. Okay, and I know what a lot of you are going to be saying. Can I modify hammers so that they do the same thing, so they have different ends on? So this could be a dog's head hammer, and I've just made this sort of radius, or what we sometimes call a cheese fuller end. I haven't handled this yet, but I think I might do. But yeah, you could, if you wanted to, put a fuller or a ball peen or a radius on there to give you two faces. You don't have to have this as a single-faced hammer. Okay, you guys and girls at home came up with loads of great names for the channel. I'm going to sit down with Ella over the weekend. I'm going to think about which ones I really liked and which ones I think I might put up as a panel for you guys to pick from, and the one that gets the most votes basically will be the one that we choose. I'll do that, sort of try and do that for Monday morning if I can. Hopefully this video is going to go up over tonight, which is Thursday, Friday, somewhere around there. So, okay, I'm running about 2 weeks behind on orders, which sounds awful, but you guys are being very patient. And I've got some cool stuff coming relating to the Etsy, so I think I'm going to be able to start being able to supply Damascus steel in billets, but not forged together, so you get to do that. I also think I'm going to be able to get hold of some knife steels, and I'm going to start making some different types of tongs for people to get hold of as well. But as ever, thank you so much for your patience. If you have ordered something, I'm I am on it. I'm working my way through it, and loads of people are putting in requests for things that aren't up there that I really want to put up there, but just being able to make the amount of stuff that you guys and girls are after is just really, really, really hard work, and I'm trying my best. Bear with me, I will get. Okay, down in the comments, let me know if there's anything you want to see in the hammer making, and also if you have any questions about why we do certain things when we're making these hammers. Hopefully the information in this video is kind of the stuff that people wanted to hear. I'll do my best to try and answer those questions in the video. There's loads of good questions coming through all the time, and I like to add those in on these videos, these rough and ready ones, if I possibly can. I'm not going to talk too much about rough and ready anymore either. Yeah, drop that down in the comments. Let me know what you would like to know about hammer making and stuff like that. Just chuck anything in the comment about general blacksmithing, things that you'd like to know about. I'm quite happy to answer those questions if you have them. Just briefly, the kits for the Stay Home, Stay Safe, Stay Blacksmithing have been a little bit overwhelming. I wasn't expecting to sell as many as I have. They've gone like absolute wildfire. They will be leaving by the end of this week, 100%. I think I've already said that they will be leaving it. But anyway, I've run out of Damascus, so I can't do the Damascus thing because I've had to send it out in all the kits. And I also am going to be doing, I've been trying to get some time to do the next project. Unfortunately, you keep ordering stuff, I haven't got any time. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to be doing that as well. So unless it's today, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, basically that video is the next one, which will be the calipers. And the reason basically is because I haven't got any Damascus to do the actual tutorial with, because I've had to send it all out. So anyway, that's that. Both these turned out great. I love making these. These dog's heads are really nice and fun to make. Quite quick, quite simple little hammers. Do really enjoy them. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching me make them. Hopefully some of these tips have been useful and helpful. Like I said, I'm going to go through some finishing, handling, polishing, all sorts of stuff, little tiny videos. You start watching this one, you can go through, you can learn how to make scandies, big boys, I'll do some rounders, I'll do a little bit of everything, some real detailed, interesting stuff that if you're getting into hammer making and you want to get a bit better, this is for you. That's everything. So thank you so much for joining me. If you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe if you didn't already. And if you are a subscriber, please ring that bell for notifications. It tells you every time I make a video. I'm trying desperately hard to do like Tuesday, Thursday, and then try and get like a Saturday, Sunday video up as well. I'm mixing it up with these sort of a bit quicker, a bit more fun, a bit more punchy videos. I've got some new lighting. Hopefully that's been noticed in this video as well. I probably look like a white, blurred out, really white person, which I am. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that bit there. Anyway, that's everything. Comments down below. Let me know what you'd like to know about hammer making. Let me know what you think of the video, blah, 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 all that cool stuff. Etsy, go and check out the Etsy, tongs, tools, t-shirts, merch. I've got some new ideas for some merch coming, some other bits and bobs. Go and check those out. Instagrams, if you want to find out a bit more about what we're doing here. I sometimes post stories and all that good stuff. That's everything. Thank you for joining me. I will leave a link up here to a video that YouTube thinks that you will enjoy. This video here is one that was recently made. This one here is something I think that relates to this video. That's the subscribe button. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.